Okay, introduction first. Okay, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, who will be, Laura, you going first? Okay, our first speaker will be Lori A.
Hi, I'm Lori, and I'm an addict. I don't ever stand up and do this. I usually try to sit. Can I? Really? Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd like a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer, please. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you. I always try to pray so that I get out of the way and it ends up being God's message. Because when I'm left to my own head, that's when things get all mucked up. But when I was asked to do this, I thought about the topic and I thought, wow, what does that mean to me? And, I've never heard of this topic and it's pretty cool. But, I never think about what I'm going to say before I say it, because, I never say whatever I think of anyway. My head gets all messed up and clouded, and I get really nervous and start sweating. And so I really just try to go where the Spirit moves me. But I like this because, when I came to these rooms, I was a lot like everyone else. I didn't know how to be a friend. I didn't have any friends other than one person that I met when I was 3 years old, and we're still tight today. But I just, I really had no idea what that meant. What is a friend? How do I be one? How do I have people in my lives without hurting them? I don't know. I came to this fellowship and I was completely beaten, completely alone and scared. And I came so that I wouldn't die. That's my story. I had 3 weeks to live when I got to this fellowship, and I don't forget that. But one of my goals, after I saw how people were and the ease that they were walking with and the friendships that they had and the fun that they were having, was to have a friend. I just wanted one friend that could last, because I'd become friends with somebody, and a month later we were at each other's throats, and then they were gone. And I really had just no idea how to do that. And, my mother used to say, well, do unto others as you'd want them to do unto you. And I was too scared to have anybody near me. I was just telling somebody yesterday that when anybody would get close to me, I'd hit them so that they wouldn't want to be friends with me, because I was so afraid that once they got to know me, that they would leave anyway. And so until I was in about 4th grade, I didn't have anybody in my life other than the other Lori Anderson, who I've known since I was 3. And I was just so afraid. I mean, I don't know, the fear just ate me alive. And after that, I did let some people close to me, but not anywhere near knowing who I was. But I think I had about a year clean, and I had a sponsor who we would write New Year's resolutions, and we'd read them a year later. We'd put them in a sealed envelope, and then we'd read them a year later and see if we met some of those goals that we want to do. And I had written that I wanted one friend for a whole year, the same friend. And after I opened that in December, I looked across the room, and there was the girl that I was friends with till November, and we had a falling out. And but that was the longest I had ever gone, because I just didn't know how to be a friend. I didn't know how to not hurt people. I would say something, and I still do today. I mean, I say things, and I just don't think before I talk. You know, I might have something going on, and they get it. And I'm really trying to work on that. But when I got to We Grow with Love the first year, I think it was about 7 years ago or something like that, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know, I mean, I just showed up. I had heard about this, and I heard it was great, and I just showed up. And I saw all the bikes, and so I parked near them, and because that was something familiar. And I walked in, and the first people that I met, I think, was Debbie and Mark and some of the Detroit people. And they just welcomed me. I mean, it was like I was part of them. It was like I was their family. And throughout the weekend, I kept hearing that cabin over there, Ulrich, was the Demon's Hall or something like that, you know, and that nobody wanted anything to do with it because the people there, you know, they wouldn't let anyone close, and you know, it was for the bikers only, and that nobody else was welcome. I kept hearing all these stories, and I walked in and nobody knew me, and I wasn't from the same area as anybody, and they just welcomed me like I was family. And we spent the whole weekend just, I mean, laughing harder than I've ever laughed in those circles, talking about issues and watching people act silly. And you know, I had forgot how to laugh. And I've learned that at We Grow with Love. I've learned how to laugh again, and how to be comfortable, and how to just let go. Sometimes that's not easy for me to just let go. Because, you know, during the year I have all this stuff going on, and tension and all that. And what I found is that some of the people that I met, even at that very first year, I'm still friends with today. You know, I keep in contact during the year and try to go to where they're at, go to meetings outside of my area, or go to people's houses, you know, when they have a party, or you know, whatever. But I'm finding that the friendships that I have today are the ones that are lasting, you know, and even if something happens, when you have somebody in your heart, even if there's like a falling out, you know, they're still there. And eventually, because we're in recovery, eventually that mends. You know, it just mends. And it's about just saying, you know what, I screwed up. You know, I had something going on, and you got it. And I'm really sorry. And, you know, that happened for me yesterday here. And, you know, that's happened. It's all in God's time, you know. It's like when I want to do something and I think, God, I should do that, God always presents the time. And if I try to control that, that's when things get messed up. And so I know that messages come and times come. And when I try to do things before their time, things don't go right. You know, because that's my will. It's my will. And I'm really trying to ask God for what His will for me is. I've been trying to work the 11th step quite a bit, trying to write about it every day. I do a sequence of writing every day. And I'm finding that the more peaceful that I am inside, the easier it is to have friendships that do last. I think it was either the first or second year that I was here. I was asked to share on complacency and recovery. And it was a really good topic because before that, I had stopped writing for about 7 years. And although I didn't use, I was miserable. My life was messed up worse than it's ever been. And then I was asked to speak on complacency. And, you know, God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. And it was that weekend that I asked my sponsor to be my sponsor. And she ended up being my sponsor for 5 or 6 years. And with her, I was able to work through the Step Working Guide. But, that friendship happened here. So many things have happened for me on these grounds that I can't even explain. And, I'd come year after year, and I would stay in that lodge, and we'd hang out on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, and just have a blast. I'm surprised we haven't really been doing a whole lot of that this year, but it was about 3 years ago that I decided that I wanted to branch out and not just sit with the people that I knew, and to sit with people I didn't know, introduce myself to new people. And I'm glad that I did that, because I've met some really wonderful people, and I've renewed some really wonderful friendships. And, and a lot of that began here. I just keep thinking back at all the different speakers that we've had, and the changes that room has taken, where the speakers are. It was a dirt floor when I first started coming here, and benches, and we'd have to bring pillows and blankets, and now it's got cushy seats and carpet. And I don't know, just this place has been life-changing for me. It really has, and the friendships that I've made here are just unbelievable. I've been talking about this. I talk about this all year round. I look forward to this from, like, tomorrow I'll start looking forward to next year already, because this is like the best thing that I do. And I'm really glad that it's 4 days instead of 3 days, and I'm glad it's not just a weekend, because, I don't like coming and feeling like I have to leave already. Last year, I showed up, and I was a mess. Oh boy, was I a mess. It was 2 weeks after my marriage of 15 years dissolved, and I didn't know what to do. I just showed up, and I probably cried all weekend. I think I did, because somebody mentioned that to me yesterday. But you guys just love me. You just love me. And, and it was a rough year. And this year I came with a whole new outlook. And we've done some things that I've never done before. We've been sitting in that teepee and lighting fires and laying down by the water. And we took a swim to the tree, and because it's so flooded over there. And we've done just so many different things, and I've met some new people this weekend, and you know what? I think that everybody grows at different paces, and it's just taking me a hell of a lot longer, but I think I'm finally realizing what friendships are, and what not to do, just by mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. But I think I'm learning how to be true, and that's what it's about. It's about being true, and I like what the Just for Today said this morning about being vulnerable. Allowing myself to be vulnerable. Because that was something that I could never do. I didn't want you to know who I was, because you'd leave. You'd hate who I was. You would just want to run, and. You know what? I don't feel that way today. When I first came to this fellowship, I thought if you didn't like me, you had bad taste, and that was just my fear and my ego and my. It's funny how I could have an ego when I thought nothing of myself, but I did, and it's just not like that for me today. I'm really trying to let people know who I am. Not everyone. I have a couple of really, really tight friendships. To where we do anything, just anything. And we spend a lot of time together. Every weekend we let the kids play, and we sit and we just talk. And we have bonfires every weekend. And I'm really practicing letting someone in, letting someone know who I am. And I've had some conversations with people this weekend, and we've gotten, pretty deep, and it's been really, really cool. I'm letting a couple of individuals in deeper than I've ever let, and that comes from, the step work that I'm doing, the relationship that I'm developing with my higher power. And, I am actually gaining some, not self-worth, but I'm thinking, I know that I'm a good person. I've done some bad things, but that's not who I am today. That's not who I am, period. We do things in active addiction, and that doesn't make us who we are. Because those were just some things that we did, and I'm really finding that I'm not doing the same things. We were reading about insanity this morning as, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And you know what? This is a program of change, and we can do something different and get different results. And that's the only way to get different results, is to do something different. But I'm really grateful for change, and that is the only given, is that there's going to be change. And sometimes it's not easy. I showed up here and there were a couple of things different on Friday night, and I was like, well, it's always like this. Well, what happened? And you know what? It's about change. This place is, it's going to be different every year. And I like the developments. When I first got here, there were no tents, and now we've got Camp Colby, and it's really cool because I really wanted a camp. We were talking about should we camp, should we not? It's hard to get everything here on the bikes, but what I see, the friendships that people are developing down there, and the fellowshipping, and I said, well, you know what? We're not bringing a tent. We have someplace else to sleep, but that doesn't mean we can't hang out there. And so we've been hanging out there, and I brought my little drum, and they were playing the guitar and making up songs as they went, and it was a lot of fun. And some of the people that I know from Kalamazoo, we don't get together all the time, but I see them here, and we get tighter and tighter and tighter, and that's really cool. Because when I go places, I don't always hang out with the people that are from my area. I like to meet new people, but I haven't even been hanging out much in my area lately either. So, because I've been traveling so much for work. I travel every 3 weeks for work. And so I'm renewing some of those friendships too, and seeing people that I haven't seen in a while, because I don't go to the big meetings. I go to, my home group is Sunday morning. It's at this little tiny place where there's like 10 people, and it goes from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. If anybody's in Kalamazoo, it's called New Way to Live, and it's the best meeting in Michigan. I have to say that because I keep saying it's the best home group in the world, and I've been told that there's one that's really good in South Bend. So, but the thing is if you don't think your home group is the best, find a new one. But we also have a women's issues meeting, and I go to that every week, and that's really awesome because I feel like I can really let some stuff out. And anyhow, I'm really grateful to be here. I don't know what else to share on this topic, but I just, I really cherish the friendships that I've made here, and I'm really grateful that they're lasting, Anyhow, thanks.
And our next speaker will be Kathy W. Kathy!
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy. I'm an addict. I thought the same thing that Lori did when they asked me to do this workshop. I said, I don't have any friends. I was just joking. But I thought, well, that's a weird topic for a workshop. So, and I didn't want to think about it or contemplate it because then I get all nervous and what am I going to say about that? But what I was thinking about was same thing Lori was about my first time here. But going back a little bit, coming into this process, probably like everybody else, friendships are just another piece of the puzzle of relationships. And coming into this process, I had no relationship skills. I had skills like manipulation, conning, lying, scheming, what can I get from you? And then in this fellowship, when I came in, I was very intimidated by all the people who acted normal and had, like a year of clean time. It was like, ooh, that was scary. And I was in such awe of these people and in such, intimidated by these people that I could never even fathom the thought of having a friend, having one of these people to actually be.
Excuse me, Kathy. Nobody over there can see you.
Well, there's a beam there too. Okay. I would think that I would think things like, oh, if one of these people would be my friend, I'd just be so honored by that. I was just so intimidated by people. And so I picked up a few relationship skills along the way, but not a lot. Not a lot. When I got here this year, Jim from the committee reminded me of, he said, do you remember the time that you flew over the table at somebody? And I was like, oh, that's right, I did do that, and I think they're coming here tomorrow. Catch you next time around on the night step. Anyway, I thought, oh my gosh, that was a long time ago, and I did used to do things like that, But anyway, the first, as far as friends go here, what I found out is that the people in my own area who you think when you get people down at Camp Mac, it's like everything just comes out. It's like, for years, I was on the very first committee that had this thing back in, we had it in '93, and I did registrations, so I checked the people in, so I got to see everybody's face, and there's some people here who were here at the first one, and there was 42 people. And I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's kind of funny. You guys know Mark, right, from the convention committee. I'll put his name out there because he doesn't care. We had 42 people here. And some of you know this story. We signed this contract with the camp to give them, that we were planning that we would get $10,000 because we were very grandiose, and we had Greg P. coming to be our speaker, and he had wrote some stuff in the basic text, and we were just all that. And so Mark and I put our name on this paper that, we would give them this money. And so you do the math, 42 people. So it's the last day, and I don't know if you were here, but it was kind of snowing, it was freezing cold, it was pelting those little ice ball things that it does here, and we had this like cassette recorder making these tapes, and we're out in this shelter with no walls, and the wind is howling, so when people are speaking at the workshop and they're freezing cold, all you can hear in the cassettes is like, and so when the thing was over, there's Mark and I sitting out in front of the dining hall where you eat on that. There was a little bench thing there, and we're both, now Mark, back then we were, he was bigger and I was bigger and we didn't have gray hair and he wasn't quite 40 and I wasn't quite 30, it was a long time ago. And we're like shaking and crying because we don't have this money, and to have that moment with somebody that, because I cry like once a decade or so, and he didn't cry much back then, and we were both like, and I don't think neither of us had a job. And so we signed this damn paper. So we march in, up, it's like the longest walk up the stairs when you're going to eat, and this guy takes us back in his office, and we have this little wad of money, and we're like, it's like $1,800 or something. We're like, whoa, we'll get you the rest, and we're kind of like, and he said, that's okay. Do you want to come back next year? Forget it. And we both were like, we're just, So after that, since that moment, we've been friends, really good friends ever since. Because, like I said, you can't go through that and have that private moment with somebody. And so we've both been tied to this thing for so long. Every year you'll see him here. I don't think there's a year I didn't come, but that's another story. But what I found out is that, you know, you get people, if you have sponsees, they'll ask you questions like, well, when's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? When am I going to get some friends? When am I going to, all these different events. And in my experiences, everything in recovery is a process, not an event. It's a journey, it's not a destination, all those nice cliches. But that's something, these relationship skills, they grow over time. And like Lori said, it takes a long time to learn how to be a friend, to have a friend. And the first thing everybody wants when they get clean, or I'll just speak for myself, is these sexual relationships. It's like, oh, I need a boyfriend. I need this, And if you're a female, females come into recovery and it's like, I don't trust women, or we have all those woman issues. I don't trust women. Women are just, and that takes time too. It's part of developing those relationships. And then we have sponsors, and we have women sponsors and women sponsees, but those aren't friends. That friendship grows as you sponsor somebody, because you can't call somebody a friend when you've been my sponsee one day, I don't even know you. But as I would go to somebody's home, or as they'd come to my home and we'd get to know the kids, get to know the family, start getting invited to different family events, we become friends. And that's a process. I think friend is something prior to recovery that I would throw out there like it was nothing. Just give it out there. Well, they're my friend. That means I won't tell on you. I won't give your name up, and all those weird rules that go along with that lifestyle. And it means something different today. It's kind of like, what are the attributes of being a friend? What I found out, and this is how I found it out. I was talking to Jonathan and Bonnie earlier, and I said I was working with this lady on some of the things that were keeping me from having good relationships, like people-pleasing, codependency, enabling, all that junk that keeps us from having good relationships. And this lady said to me, look, I want you to give me 2 years. I'm like, 2 years of what? And she's like, 2 years of no intimate relationships, no sexual relationships. And I'm like, I got to think about that. They got a coin for that. So, I'll be getting a coin for that. Wow. So I'm praying about it, and this is right before the first Camp Mac. It was like a year prior to that. And so I prayed about it, and I was like, okay, I got to cut a deal with God here. If I do this thing, will you promise me that I will never be lonely? Because I don't think that I can live being lonely. And from that day, this is no joke, from that day on, I have never been lonely a day in my life. And I can truthfully say that. I have never, ever felt that whatever that thing is I used to feel, that black pit of crap loneliness. I have never, ever felt that. And so what that allowed me to do, because I did it, and it lasted a little bit longer, but what that allowed me to do was this woman told me, she said, you need to see people in a different light. Because you know how when you're on the lookout for certain kind of relationships, you don't relate to people the same way as if you're relating to them like a friend, okay? Because to me, a friendship is something that is completely equal. There's equality, there's respect, nobody's better than anybody else, nobody's bragging, nobody's arrogant. There's just this total respect thing going on. And you can't be that way with a member, of the opposite sex, if you're heterosexual, same sex, if you're homosexual. I mean, you can't be that when you're on the lookout. It's just not going to happen. You can't have that. So for me, what that allowed me to do was relate to people in that way. And my God has blessed me with the ability to not care what you are. I don't care about race, creed, sexual orientation, creed, religion, lack of religion, all that stuff through this process. I don't care about that. Of most of my sponsee sisters, I'm the only white girl. Does that bother me? No. And it just evolved that way. I don't know how it got that way. It just was that way. It's just, this is what we do, and this is, and people, I have sponsee sisters who call me and they'd be like, Kathy, I just realized something. I'd be like, what? I'm a lesbian. I'm like, should we have a cookout? I mean, what do I care? I don't care what you are in that realm. Do we have a party? Is there a, and this is a big deal because why? I don't know. I mean, thanks for sharing. Are you still coming to the dance? So, I mean, all that stuff, this is, you know what? I don't know where people come from, but this is life and death to me. I don't care about that stuff. I don't care. And people, there's always these issues about race and gender and this, that, and the other, and people are like, did you hear about this? No, I don't care. I don't care. That stuff just doesn't mean anything to me. When you've come from where we've come from, and maybe you'll get more gratitude the more clean time you get, but I've just come to realize that the more clean time I get, the more humbled I am, and the less I know. And it's so humbling. And I'll tell you what's really humbling is coming back here year after year and the people that aren't here. That humbles me. It is a so far out there miracle that I'm even still alive today. And as my friends, a lot of my friends are in that same boat. And every year I think, wow. And I'll tell you about the year I missed, because I haven't talked about, I really never talk about that because I don't like to talk about that. But here's the year that I missed. I went for many years without like a relationship because I was raising my kids and I was always in school and working and, had like 23 out of 24 hours of the day booked, some of those high energy people. So I didn't have time for that nonsense. I had to raise my kids, pay the bills, go to school, la, la, la. And one day, I met this person that I thought, it just came out of the blue, it just kind of happened. And I thought, this is really somebody that I could really spend the rest of my life with. And so we came up here and we had the most awesome time. It was wonderful, it was beautiful, and I was all, we had all these plans and we were going to do this and we were going to do that, and they were in recovery. And that was in May, of course. And then in February the following year, he committed suicide. So that May, I just couldn't. I had the car packed. It was raining. I was getting ready to go. I pulled the car back in the garage, and I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And so, and I still to this day don't really know what was behind that other than a relapse. The shame and the guilt and all the things that people think, because I had substantially more clean time. And probably, I'm sure what goes through people's minds when they relapse is that, the people will never accept me back. They'll never, all those things that go through somebody's mind when they're using. And I just couldn't deal with that. I just couldn't come here because we had such a great time the year before. I just couldn't do it. And so that's something I think of when I came back here. I, worked through all my stuff and, well, not all of it, most of it, with that, and because that never goes away. Anybody who's ever been through a suicide knows you're never really quite the same after that, and that's not the first one. So you're just not quite the same anymore, and not in a bad way, but in a different way. In a just a spiritual wisdom kind of way. It's like life is so precious. But so that's one of the things I think about when I see the people come year after year. I look around and I think, well, where's so-and-so? And I'm not really much of a name person, I'm a face person. And I'll talk to people and I just get this feeling of joy when I see these same people coming back. It's like, oh, they're okay. They're good, they're back. And it might be they might have brought different people with them, or they're with a different spouse or a different partner or different kids or whatever. But that's what we do. As we, part of us recovering and growing is our change process. I worked with a lady in recovery who would tell people when they'd finish the treatment program, she'd say, draw a circle, now stand in the circle, now pick a color. And then she'd say, from here on out, you get to decide who's in your circle and who's not. And what I've come to find out is that people come and go out of that circle, but that's one of the blessings of recovery. We get to choose who's in and who's out. And a lot of times it's for our own safety and recovery. We got to put people in and put people out, bring them in and move them around. But that's the double-edged sword of recovery, you know. That thing Lori was talking about vulnerability, that's the double-edged sword of relationships. If you can't be vulnerable, you can't have a good relationship. But in order to be vulnerable, you got to be willing to experience some pain. You can't do it. It won't work. You got to have the communication, the commitment, the compromise, the vulnerability, and if you're not willing to go there, it's never going to work. And that's with your friends, too. You got to put yourself out there, and you got to just be willing to take whatever comes back. You know, and I feel through this process, and all this process has come to me through these steps and through these traditions. Everything I learned about relationships is through the steps and traditions and through the people that had me work through some of this pain. And I can truly say that in this process, I have the best friends of anybody in the entire world. My friends are like, this circle that I've got going on, it's the best. And it don't take much to get in. Just step in. That's it. That's it. I'm not a standoffish person or anything like that. I tend to be a really quiet person because I talk for a living. That's what I do. So when I'm not at work, I'm like a carpenter. You know, if I was a carpenter, my house would be like ramshackle, everything falling apart because I wouldn't work at home. So when I'm not working, I'm not really much of a talker. You know, so people say sometimes, well, you're kind of standoffish. It's like, no, I'm not. Come up and start a conversation. So I welcome, you know, anybody into my circle of friends, and I hope I'm welcome into yours. Thanks for letting me share.
Okay. Can you hold this, Robert? No, okay. Now the podium's open for anybody who wants to share, right? And we ask that you keep it to a minimum or not. It's open. And the topic is, I found a friend that we grow with love.
I'm Cynthia M, and I'm an addict family. And it's been a little while, a couple of months since I shared at any meeting. I came back down here with Maria, and we were doing the math. How many times I've been here, and this is actually my fourth time here. I told Robert earlier. I was crying because she was sharing my experience, you know. And sometimes people don't understand friendships, you know, and gender has nothing to do with it. Your sexual preference have anything to do with it, you know. When you're a loving person, man, you know, you're there, you spend that time with that person that you need. You don't drain them. You don't allow them to drain you. But they're always there when they're supposed to be, you know. And I remember the last time I came out here, I believe I brought my daughter, and there was a lot going on with me then, you know, in the relationship, and just, you know, just a lot taking place in my life. And I understand that when there is a lot going on, it's time for you to move out of a certain space in your life, you know. And sometimes why it's a problem, because I resist the change. So when I resist the change, it blows up. It's more than what it really is, you know. And coming back out here, I relax because I carry a lot. You know, being responsible and being in recovery, someone said the other night when we started the fire, they said that newcomers were energy vampires or something like that. It was real funny, right? Because I can remember just going every dance, every activity, every convention. You know, I'm like always there. And through time, you just can't do that, right? And I realized that becoming responsible in your recovery and in your own personal recovery in your life, you can't do everything. I can't be everywhere, you know, even if it's NA related, because I've had to pass some things up. Because I learned how to be my own friend. I was real good at being friends with everyone else. I wasn't one of the women that, you know, had a problem with the women or men when I came here. It was very easy for me to make friends since a little kid because I'm an open person. I'm real social, you know, strike up conversations and everything. But, you know, I realized that I made a friend with myself. And just like when I was a little kid, and I would put all my stuffed animals and my dolls and everything out, and they would be my audience, and I would perform. And you know, and I learned how to play by myself and just be okay in my own skin. And I had to learn that again here, to be okay. Like the book says, with or without a job, with or without a partner, with or without money, you know, to be okay, you know, to be happy, joyous, and free, you know, and here, I came out here and I was thinking about the different times that I came out here and what was going on in my life, you know, and it's just beautiful just to be able to relax, because I've been relaxing out here, you know, when I go back home and I pick my 3-year-old up, because sometimes for me, last Wednesday I pulled up in the parking lot of a meeting and I was going to go in and listen to the speakers. My cell phone rang. Mommy, come get me. I want to come home. And whoever's watching it was like, oh, you know, come get her. She's crying, da-da-da-da, you know. And I got in my car and I had to leave. I had to go get my kid. I couldn't go to the meeting. And I wasn't going to bring her there, irritable, tired, you know, whiny. And she catches on to so much and repeats so much. So I can't. She said something, you know, so I deal with it. I just want to say thank you, Avis and Maria, for putting up with me, because a lot of times my sponsorship family has been getting on me for spending time to myself, but that they don't realize that sometimes I can't make it, you know, and I would go when I know that I shouldn't go, when I know that I have certain responsibilities that's there, and I would neglect certain things, even in here, just to be there to say, well, I didn't let you down. But then I'm left with a mess that I got to deal with. You know, I'm left with my laundry piling up or something because I'm going to the dance or something, just doing stuff too much and not putting your regular changes. That's what I'm trying to say, okay, as I stay here. You know, and since I've done that, I don't get the bill with the red line in it. It's like blue and white now. Oh, nobody else don't get those bills, right? Oh, you never got none. I mean, so, you know, right? So it's been some years since I got the red line in the bill. Final notice will shut you off because I'm in recovery but being irresponsible and not addressing things when I should right away. So I found a friend here, and my friend brought me back here again this year. If you don't pick it up, you can't get high. Thanks for allowing me to share.
I'm gonna sit down now. Okay. Hey, good afternoon, family. I'm an addict. My name is Maria. First, let me thank God for waking me up another day clean. Clean. I ain't gonna say in my right mind because I don't know yet. But I'm clean. And allow me to make it back to Camp Max safely and see all y'all. I like this topic. Because like Cynthia was saying, I found a friend that we grow with. I found quite a few friends and some very highly qualified associates. You know, because really I'm still learning how to distinguish the difference of who's a friend and who's just associate and who belongs in the front row and who goes to the balcony. But I'm just so grateful that y'all be glad to see me coming. Because as a kid, I was one of those kids that came home with someone from the bus stop and said, Mom, they're hungry, can they eat with us? And my daddy said, where did you find him? Get him out of my house. I said, this is my friend, and this guy couldn't even speak English, and my dad was still telling him, get out of my house. He, But I was one of those people, desperate for friendship. Only through coming here, Narcotics Anonymous, did I have to learn. It took a lot of work for me to learn how to be a friend. Because my friendships have always been conditional. What can you do for me to make me feel like you're worthy to be my friend? I have so many friends out here now. Kim, I just love her. She did a workshop earlier, and they gave her the right one. Easy does it. 'Cause she has a polite way of checking me. You know, where I'd be like, since she's so nice and sweet and cool, I can't say bitch. You didn't have to say that, you know, but no. But she has a very polite way of getting me back to some gratitude. Because a lot of times I get to sharing and talking, it sounds like I'm ungrateful, and I'm not. I'm very grateful for this life. I am so very grateful not to be getting high, not to be on a suicide mission, not to try to kill myself like one of my friends after 16 years is out there in full bloom right now. I'm just so grateful that I can stay in the rooms and pray for her, because that's about all I can do. My friend, I have a very dear friend, and she's a sponsee of mine, Avis. See, sometimes you have to spend time with a person and be a friend. You have to be able to sleep in the same room. You have to understand, see if these people have the same morals that you have, same standards. If this person has integrity, like the fifth step talks about. And you said it's something if we're equal. And Avis is a very dear friend of mine. And I can honestly say she's more than a sponsee, because a lot of times in my process, she helps me more than I help her. You know, so I'm not one of them sponsors that be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'd be like, come on with it, help, please. You know, Shannon and her new little baby. Shannon look at me crazy. That's my, we got a little joke. I don't know if I should tell y'all or not, but I'm that baby daddy uncle. Uncle Daddy. No. But all you guys are so, and I used to share this all the time when I came out here. I said, I'm going to stop saying that because somebody going to be from Detroit and get mad. But really, my friends is out there. Because you guys have a way of making people feel so loved, so welcome, especially a person like me who really never knew the meaning of friendship. And say, Maria, we're so glad to see you. Please come back next year. I'm like, they be asking me to come back. You know, that's a wonderful, they said for me to come back. And that's a wonderful feeling, you guys, because I'm going to tell you the truth, I don't get this kind of love from my family members. Y'all give me something. We grow with love. That's for sure. I have found a friend out here, also myself. Not to mention, I even found my higher power out here, who's my best friend now. I find a lot of things here that I just don't find somewhere else. And I come here to cultivate those things. I come here for y'all to keep on telling me, Maria, it's going to be all right, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And this year, again, y'all, I feel so good. I'm not sad. Stuff happened. It always happened. I lost my last brother, December the 8th. Let me tell you how grateful I am that I don't have no more. I don't have to come back in another 2 years and say, guess what, y'all, another one of my brothers died, because I don't have any more now. I got 4 sisters, and I just pray to God that nothing happens to them. But if it does, or if something happens to me, I try to tell my daughter every day, just live your life to the fullest. And for me, all these people dying and going back, I'm just so grateful that none of that stuff made me feel like I want to use. I'm not going to sit here and say I had a brief moment saying, well, damn, maybe I should know. Just for today, I don't want to die, Robert. I'm all right with living. there's enough people around me dying. I want to keep on pushing. You know, I just want to keep moving, and I'm just so grateful for this program. God is so awesome. Because without Narcotics Anonymous, y'all, I swear I don't know what I'd do. Because I have some days, Mark, where I said, them people say, no matter what, Maria, don't use, you ain't got to use. I said, but didn't none of them assholes tell me I go crazy in this process. None of them said, you better go see a doctor, old fool. You better go see a psychiatrist because you can go crazy up in here clean. So that's why I have to keep a bunch of people around me that love me and that I love, and they're my friends. And I can say that today. I'm not a fair weather friend anymore. I know how to do the friendship on a level. I bring somebody down here with me, I don't try to save my money and spend theirs on gas. I'm going to drive any damn way. You know what I'm saying? I'm just so grateful for it. I'm grateful to have friends that the economy, everybody talk about the economy. You gonna make it? Times hard. You going to Camp Mac? Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, the economy haven't affected me because I ain't never had shit no way. I'm right where I always been. Same income bracket, so no, it ain't affected me at all. I've learned to live with this. Very responsible, work with what you got. It didn't affect me at all, I'm not gonna lie. I've always just had just enough. I'm good. I'm good. You know, and then when I don't have, I have friends that I can call. And they know if I call and I need them and they're there. That's the wonderful thing. They say, okay, Marie, I got you. And I'm the same with them. I say, I got you. So I suggest if you come to Camp Mac and you don't have a friend, you feel alone out here, that's your own problem. This is a place not to be alone. Unless you just want to, like me, sometimes want to get off to yourself. But if you want a friend, you can find a friend here in Camp Mac, because I did. Thanks for letting me share.
I'm an addict. My name's Derek. You know, I was bragging about an hour and a half ago that I hadn't been in front of a microphone all weekend long, but you guys know me better than that, man. And Maria and Kathy and Robert and Mark and man, there's Lori. There's so many people that I've met here at Camp Mac that are, you know, meaningful relationships, and maybe we only see each other once a year. But all year long, we look forward to seeing each other once a year. You know, and I'm going to tell everybody this and pass the word around. Especially if you live in Michigan, all you got to do is find 3 aluminum cans a day from now until next year, starting tomorrow, and that's enough money for a full cabin package. 30 cents a day, that's what it costs to get here, man. But there's somebody that I met here that's real special to me, and you all know who she is, and that's my wife, Kim. And I'm not saying that if you're looking for that you're going to find that here at Camp Mac, but you might, you know. And Kathy was talking about some of the people that aren't here, and I remember this is my 12th year, and I used to come. First I came down for the day, and then I came down and I spent a night, and then I came down and I spent the weekend, and I've spent the weekend ever since. But I remember coming out of the mess hall the first time that I was here, and John Sanchez was sitting up here. Where's the bench out here? The bench here in front on the porch, man. Johnny Sanchez was sitting there, and Mark, and Michael Ray, and Frank T. I don't know if a lot of you remember him, but you know, for the last 5 years or so, it hasn't been normal coming to Camp Mac because Frank T. didn't hug you when you walked through the chow line. You know, and when you went to get your T-shirt for the convention, Bruce M. wasn't there to sell you the T-shirt. You know, and some of these guys are still clean, and some of them are using, and some of them are dead. You know, that's just the way that life is. But in the 12 years that I've been coming here, this is the one thing that is for sure. You know, and some of you may or may not know that there's been a change in the area, you know, and now there's a new area that's looking to develop the NA community to this giant hole in the northeastern portion of Indiana and southern Michigan, and we're still here, members of that area, supporting the north central area, helping put on this convention, and based on what I've gotten from this weekend, I'm guessing I'm not going anywhere because I found a lot of friends that we grow with love.
My name is Jonathan. I'm an addict. I'm very grateful to be here today. And I want to go through the list of names and have a shout out to everybody who's become a friend of mine that I've met here. And you've heard a lot of their names already, so I'm not going to go through those names. But my first year here, I met a man at the marathon meeting on a Friday night who I seriously considered having as a sponsor. On the second time here, I met a man who I shared with for quite a while, who I seriously considered having as a sponsor. I've met women here who I could relate to better than almost anyone. And I've met so many people here that many of them I only see here. But I have a lot of friends that I've met here that I absolutely love. I'm a service junkie, and I've got a little sticker that I bought that says that I'm a service junkie. But I bought another one, and it says our diversity, our strength, and with the NA symbol in it, and I love the diversity that's here at Camp Mac. We Go With Love has a tremendous amount of diversity, and I relish in it. To experience people, I got to tell you, I got to get my ass up to Detroit because there's some serious recovery going on up there. There's so many people who have such a variety of experience. I can come here with any issue that I have, even when I'm half insane, and sit down with somebody, and they just kind of happen to wander by, usually, and they get roped into a 3-hour conversation with me. And we come to some solution, because that's what it's all about, is coming to solutions. But what the We Go With Love has taught me is that beyond that great diversity, which truly is our strength, because everybody brings something else to the table, there is the underlying humanity that we are. And in that, we have all that in common, and we're all equal. And, I believe that that my value as a human being can only be diminished by myself, not by anybody else's perception of me. Because that's a God-given thing. That's not based on what you think of me. And likewise, you too have that God-given value as a human being, because we're each one of us children of God. And I come here and I realize that humanity that we all are, and I see the solution for whatever issue I've got. And, it's so easy to slip right by those superficial labels and into the fact that we're all addicts and we're all seeking recovery. And I'm really grateful for that. I'll tell you, there's some stories that I could go to. I've met people that just changed my life every year. I'll tell you, the first 3 years, on the Monday when we have the whole reflections, I cried from the beginning to the end. Just a sniveling idiot. And I still do. I cry every year when I have to leave here. I heard it the other day. This is a cleansing process, and it's a refueling process for me. And I'm very grateful you all are all here, because I cannot recover alone. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bonnie. I'm an addict. I was thinking about when I did my first fourth step, and my sponsor had me do the life story. And then I'm reading this life story, and I can't tell you how many times a paragraph started out with "my new best friend." you know? And I really learned a lot about how I didn't know how to have friendship. I know how to get along, and I know how to be fun, and I know how to be whatever I need to be to belong into that group of people. And it has taken a lot of work and steps to have friends and form relationships. My sponsor, my first year, she took me all over the place. She took me to the dunes for a camp out. She took me to a sponsorship workshop that I was down in Lafayette. Took me to conventions. Took me to all these different places, H&I learning days. And it always just amazed me the way you people would just hug me, oh, welcome, great, you know, and act like you know me all my life. And that was just so cool to me. And then at the end of that year, because I got clean in May, and I'd gotten my year, and it's like, okay, now we go to We Grow with Love. And it was so wild because all those people that I only met once throughout that year, all over the state of Indiana, where she took me to all these things, were here. And they remembered me, and they knew who I was, and they reached out to me, and it was just like the coolest thing on earth, you know. I really do feel that I belong here. I've had to learn how to have friendships and make boundaries. I first thought boundaries were rules for you to abide by to be my friend. And what I learned was they were rules for me to abide by so I could have friends and keep them. You know, and today it always makes me feel good that when I have a boundary for myself that I know that's healthy for me, and then I stay within it. Even though at that moment I want to put whatever it is that you need more important than that boundary, I still stick with it because I've learned through step work what I need to do to take care of me. And I do have to pick and choose my friends. I can't just be anybody's friend. I can be nice to you, I can help you in your recovery, but I've learned that if I want to have healthy relationships, then I have to form them with healthy people. You know, someone used to say that if you run with shit, that don't make you shit, but you're going to smell like shit. You know, so even though in NA I've learned, you know, you keep what you have by giving it away, I do know that the friends I choose are going to be a reflection of who I am, you know, and not to close the door because anybody can be that. I mean, look at how much I've changed since I've gotten here. You know what? I don't think when I got here I deserved to be a lot of people's friends. And so it's important to me to have healthy friendships. I would rather have 5 healthy friendships than 25 unhealthy ones. Because those 25 unhealthy ones aren't going to do anything for me. You know, I need I'm kind of a one best girlfriend kind of girl, you know, and I had the one best girlfriend when I first came to NA, and me and her kind of came in 4 days apart, and we hung together, and we, you know, I thought this was a best friend. And what happened in the end that I learned from that relationship is friendship is an unconditional thing. And actually I learned this from getting my marriage relationship healthy and learning that it is equal. We are truly friends when I'm allowed to be who I am and you're allowed to be who you are. That's when we have a friendship. When I'm candy coating, when you're candy coating, when I'm trying to act like what I think you want me to be and you're trying to act like we're not friends. That's acquaintances. That's acquaintances. And I had to learn that difference. And I had to be careful because even though someone once told me that if I got a secret that's keeping me sick and I tell it to you and you tell everybody, I'm still better off because I don't need to be keeping any secrets that make me sick. But the only way I'm ever going to get to trust and let go of those is to form those healthy relationships with people that I can trust and they trust me, you know, and it's very important. And today, you know what? I have a lot of acquaintances, but I have a lot of people that I call friends that I can walk up to and take the mask off, and they can take their mask off, and we can say what we got to say, and there's freedom in that, real freedom in that. So anyways, I just want to share that I found a friend too.